the supernatural.
Download the Legacy Edition of Spirit Blade, a full past audio drama, for free at spiritblade.com.
Well, my editing skills are crap. Can the same thing be said about the Netflix series premiere of Cursed? Stick around and find out. Yeah, I'd definitely rather be playing Oblivion. Hi, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of the Netflix original series premiere for Cursed. The synopsis on IMDb, very brief, reads: a teenage sorceress named Nimue encounters a young Arthur on his quest to find a powerful and ancient sword. That doesn't sound right. Yes, she's a teenage sorceress. Her name's Nimue. A young Arthur on his quest to find a powerful and ancient... Well, we meet Arthur. There's nothing about him on a quest to find a sword. That's not how things play out at all. So maybe that's the description for the whole season or something? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, what is this animal? I think there's a clue in their use of the word teenage sorceress, calling out that she's a teenage sorceress. There's lots of fantasy stories that have teenage characters, like classic Terry Brooks novels have teenage characters, but they're not making a thing out of the fact that they're teenagers. So the fact that in the marketing language they use teenage says to me, oh, that explains some things. They're going for an audience of teenagers. That makes sense of how some relationship stuff was handled. It feels very much like a CW show, going for teenagers in this. I think that's what's going on here. It's very story over character in how the pilot plays out. To me, the characters felt very much like one-note tropes. We've got the main character who's, and all the, young teenagers kind of coming into their own, deciding what they want to be and what they want to do with their lives, and kind of rejecting what is told to them is their role in the world and saying, I don't want that, So she's supposed to have this particular role in her community, and she doesn't want that, so she rebels against it, even though she's kind of the chosen one. She's like, I don't want this, And she's got a friend who is basically just there to be a friend and not understand why Nimue is, rejecting what she's been given. Like, I don't understand. Can you explain things to me? The dialogue felt serviced to plot beats and exposition. It felt very utilitarian as opposed to giving us a deeper look at who these characters are, how they think, what motivates them. You've got this lots of tired out tropes first of all, the biggest tired out trope to me was Christians are horrible monsters and witches are pure and good. We've seen that in stories before, or something very close to it in many stories before, and there's no exceptions to the rule in either camp. It would be such a simple thing, and it would make such a big difference to me. I mean, set aside, I'm long past being bothered or offended when I see Christians cast as the villains in stories. Some twisted version of Christianity has made the villain in so many stories, I can't even keep track anymore. Now, for years, it's just been something that's tired and boring and like, what? Again, we're doing this? All they would have to do to engage me a little bit more would be to have at least one in the Christian camp that is good and one in the witch camp that is bad. Just show that there are different personality types. Don't make it so stinking black and white and simplistic, So the dialogue, I already talked about the dialogue. There's a budding romance between Nimue and Arthur that very much mimics how CW shows handle romance. It's based entirely on initial surface level attraction. It has some cool fantasy elements with kind of disturbing imagery and magic that's very dark in nature. So in one sense, the tone goes for these very serious and dark moments. But so much of the rest of the pilot and the characters are simplistic with no complexity to their motivations. that I just didn't connect with it. I mean, I don't care about any of the characters. I don't want to root for the hero. I don't really hate the villains. I just felt like they were all story devices and tropes rather than people with interesting personalities. As far as the cast goes, you know, the performances are all fine, but again, I think the script doesn't do them any favors. I feel like all these performances are basically just filling slots for character types rather than being fleshed out and interesting. Arthur stood out a little bit more than the others as feeling especially one note as a handsome, virtuous suitor. That's all that he was in this story, in this pilot, with all other characters feeling very close behind him in the simplicity of their portrayals. But again, I think I would blame the script for most of that lack of diversity and subtext in the performances of these characters. As far as stunts and visuals go, there are some really cool visual moments, and they use a scene transition gimmick that is kind of cool, and it gives the pilot a strong sense of stylistic identity at times. Lots of production value was also given to a village raid sequence and some other major plot moments that were visually striking. So I have no complaints and would normally love to watch more of a movie or a TV show that was being as stylistic as this one is in some of its key moments. As far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this animal that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? Hard to say. The whole Christians are horrible and hunting down the innocent witches concept and things like it is just so played out in fiction that it might easily come and go without triggering any worthwhile thought at all. But I think if we're looking for something, we can still take this as a reminder that in kind of the cultural mentality today, hypocrisy is an intolerable sin. And that is something that is quickly jumped upon by many non-Christians when they see hypocrisy in Christians. And so I think we always need to be aware of that and living out our faith, particularly the love that we're commanded to have for people. We've got to be vigilant in growing increasingly, figuring out increasingly how to love without compromise, without setting aside our love in favor of making some point or something like that, but then at the same time without also compromising truth, that there are truths that we need to share. So it's an impossible task to do that really certainly perfectly, but I think even to do it well is this very daunting task that we so often fail at. So I think that, we need to be reminded, even as we might be bothered by, like, again, we're going to portray Christians like this. I think any frustration we might feel about that, we need to be willing to set aside and say, okay, well, this is the cultural climate that we're in. So we need to be equipped and we need to be growing in this area so that we can meet people where they're at. Even if they have an unreasonably polarized view of things, we need to try to meet people where they're at. And love is an important virtue. It's the most important virtue from which all other virtues flow in some way or another. And the leader of the evil Christians in this story speaks poetically about God's love just before burning a village full of people that were born with magic. He also says that most of us were made in God's image, despite Scripture teaching that all people were made in God's image. What this crusader has clearly forgotten, that's really easy for us to forget, too, is what we're taught in Ephesians 6:12, which in the ESV says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." When people in our lives are being unreasonable, angry, hateful, it's easy to see them as the enemy, as kind of the villain in our personal stories. But even if they, like worst case scenario, are willingly welcoming demons into their lives, they themselves are not the enemy. So we need to learn how to love and influence rather than try to force change through emotion-fueled or self-righteous verbal combat. Now, I have no idea what your tastes are in TV shows or fantasy, but if I were a time traveler, I guess I'd go back in time and say, Peter, Oh, skip this one. It's got some cool looking promos that really are going to grab your attention, but don't think it's going to be your kind of experience. There are some really cool visual moments, and you'd love to see those kinds of visual moments attached to a completely different script. Unfortunately, this one's going to give you a script that that just is off-putting and disinteresting. It causes you to be disinterested. Disinteresting in its I don't know, there's some kind of, I lost it. Anyway, I just have zero interest in giving this one any more of my time. It's rated TVMA, likely for, I didn't see a description why, but likely for bloody violence and disturbing imagery. All right, those are my thoughts. We'd love to get yours in the comments below. Please like this video if you're watching it. Well, yeah, if you're watching still to this point, like it. That helps the algorithms get other people to see it in their searches. Please share it as well. That'll help other people see it. Subscribe and click that notification bell if you want to stay connected and not miss more videos as I post them. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get more information about the benefits of becoming an insider over at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. And then, of course, I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as I look for the button and as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a ton going on here at Spirit Blade Productions and Christian Geek Central, including our in-depth Bible study for geeks, movie, game, and other entertainment reviews or commentary, live streams, Christian geek news, original audio dramas, and tons more. And on top of all that, you can become a Spirit Blade insider with an influential voice and get access to exclusive content and rewards. It's your involvement as a patron that will keep all of this going and growing, so I want to thank you for your consideration in that. For more information, please check out our Patreon page through the link below at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Thanks for listening.